Hello fantastic people, I hope you're doing great. Welcome to the last episode of creating and animating your character in Blender. Of course, for Unity. The day before yesterday we created those 3 simple low poly characters. Yesterday we rigged one of them and used Mixamo to animate it, and today I would like to show you how to create custom animations in Blender. So first let's talk a little bit about posing. Over here we have our elf character with its rig that we created yesterday, and now after selecting the rig I'm changing from object mode to the pose mode. And now when I select individual bones I can rotate them, or sometimes if they are not directly attached I can also move them. So you can imagine this creates quite a lot of possibilities for different animations. However, it would be pretty tough to actually animate everything ourselves. So for example, imagine that we would like to create an attack animation, and we, for example, would have to care about every single bone in hand to bend properly and move the right direction. So there is actually a mechanism which can help us with that, and it's called inverse kinematics. So let me show you what it can do for you and how to set it up. So first I'm going back to the object mode, hiding those two, and over here I have this simple like spider leg or something like that, and then I already created small rig for it. So over here you see I have those bones. You see there are slightly bent this way to indicate the direction the leg should be bending. Now what we have to do, I'm selecting the rig, going to the edit mode, and now we need 2 extra bones. You'll see what they needed for in a second. So first one is called target. So I'm duplicating this one, moving it up, scaling it down. This doesn't matter. It's just I prefer visually to have it a little bit smaller. I press Alt P to clear the parent. So the black dashed line over here disappeared. And now there is one extra thing which I have to do, which is over here I have this small green bone icon. I click on it and uncheck the deform setting. So this means when I attach the rig to the model, this bone will not influence the mesh itself. I'm selecting this little ball over here. I make sure that I'm in the right view, and then I extrude it back. So once again I want to have a small bone that I can clear parent of and move a little bit over here. So now I would like to rename them. Oops, for this one I also should uncheck deform. I don't want it to affect the mesh directly. So this one I rename to IK target. This doesn't matter, but it's much easier to select the bone later on. You'll see in a second. So this one will be called target, and this one will be called pole. So now those 2 bones, when we set up inverse kinematics, affect 2 things. So this one, the target, is responsible for like saying where is the front or where is the point that the whole structure should be pointing to. So if we are here, this arm we would like to be extending towards it. The pole is helping with the bending. So over here you see I have already indicated which direction it should bend, but this just ensures that the whole structure when bends goes into that direction with the back of the joint. So for example, you know, when you have elbow, you want to have it behind the elbow. If you have a knee, you would like to have it in front of the knee, this type of stuff. So now I select the bone that I would like to be the front of the inverse kinematics. It's very important to select the right one, because for example, if I would select this one, then the top part, so the claw or whatever it is, wouldn't be able to rotate on its own. Basically, it would be always affected by the inverse kinematics. You will see what I mean in a second. So I select this bone over here. Now I have to make sure that I go to the pose mode. You see over here there is something called object constraints properties, and people very often look for the inverse kinematics over here and they cannot find it. That's because they are not in pose mode, and they are in the wrong constraints. So here's the object constraints, and over here the blue icon with the bone is the bone constraints properties. Over here we have the inverse kinematic setting or constraint. We add it, and now you see we have to select two things. First of all, it's important to remember that this is like attached to the bone. So it's this bone that I had selected. It's not the whole rig, but rather this particular bone. And now I need to select first the armature. So in my case, it's this one. And now I have to select the target bone and the pole target bone. So for the target, you see, I named them correctly, so it's easy to find. And for pole, I select the pole. You see, this suddenly changed because now I have to do some extra settings. Over here, first, the important setting is the chain length. So this is saying how many bones after this one should be influenced by the inverse kinematics. So first, let's set it for 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. And we'll see what it does in a second. I on purpose gave just 3. We should have 4. I will adjust that in a second. And then the second thing is, generally, when you have the inverse kinematics set up, I don't really understand why, but you see, this already starts working, but it's bending the wrong way. So in order to adjust that, we have this setting over here, which is pole angle. And in my case, I need to enter there minus 90 degrees. And suddenly everything works as expected. And you see, I said that we want to have a look at the chain length. So for example, you see at this moment I have it set to 3. So this bone, and this bone are affected. So the setting 3 over here means the last bone is not affected. So whatever I do with target or with pole doesn't affect at all the last bone. So let's fix that. I change it to 4, and suddenly you see the 4th bone is also bending. Now I said also you have to be careful which bones you select, because for example, this bone is now not controlled by inverse kinematics. And this is my choice. I prefer it this way because I can do that. And then, for example, I could just do like a slash or something like, you know, with the cloth at the end. So this is what the inverse kinematics can do for you. Now let's quickly attach it to the so maybe let's first reset the pose. So I'm going to the pose mode, pressing F3 to select command and reset clear transform. Nope, I need to select everything and now do that. Awesome. So everything is basically cleared. I go to the object mode, select the mesh, select the rig, Control P with automatic weights, and you see automatically the leg bends slightly. So now I can select the bones. I can go to the pose mode, and now I can select all those bones and hide them because I will not adjust them individually. Instead, I will work with those 3 bones. So this is much easier. And now you see I can just do crazy stuff with it. So, and for example, if I hide this one, now I see how it looks like. So you see, this is pretty powerful thing, and we can do really a lot of crazy stuff with it. So even like attack or something like that, or a walking animation of the spider. And you see this rotation doesn't affect anything, so this is very important to remember. You can also move this bone to affect the way your structure bends. Okay, so now let's quickly set up the inverse kinematics for our character. So we know for sure this is the hand bone, so we'll have to set it up for this, and we'll also want to set it for the feet bone. The process is going to be very similar, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Then I make sure that all of those bones have the deform unselected. We don't want them to affect the mesh. Then I go to pose mode and start setting up the actual inverse kinematics. You see now a very interesting thing happened because we haven't selected yet the chain length. So let me fix that, 1, 2, and everything looks all right now. And over here as well, I have to adjust the whole angle, as you see. Awesome. So the arm is ready, the same thing for the knee. Now you see for this one I didn't have to adjust the pole angle. With the 0 it works as expected, so it bends the right way. Now what we can do, we can go to the edit mode, select all bones, click right, symmetrize, and suddenly we have the inverse kinematics on the other side too. Let's go to pose mode to just double check, and we see everything there is as expected. Beautiful. So we can go to the object mode, show our character, and now let's have a look. Maybe let's open another window over here. And we can uncheck show overlays to see just the character without anything disturbing us. So now if we over here select the rig, go to the pose mode, and we adjust anything, we can see it happening over here. So as you see, this inverse kinematics will make the attack animation much easier. Yeah. So I set up my workspace for the animation. So over here I have the character. So here I will be able to preview the animation without any overlays. Over here is where I will work. And over here I have the dope sheet. So basically I went over here and changed it to dope sheet. And then for this one I selected the animation editor, which will allow me to create new animations. And over here I have the timeline. And this is pretty convenient because I can press the record button and then move something, and the keyframes will be created for me. So first what I do, I go to the pose mode, making sure that the rig was selected. And now I create the first animation. So I click over here, the first action was created, I call it idle. So now I need to think about starting position for my character. Or maybe it doesn't look that bad, so this would be good base for the idle animation. So I'm selecting everything, pressing I, which gives me this context menu for inserting the keyframes. And I'm going to select location, rotation, and scale. And basically you see suddenly all those keyframes have been created for all of my bones. So this is like the starting position. Now, for example, what we would like to do. Let's say the character should be breathing a little bit, so let's move it a little bit forward. And now we have two ways. We could either select the recording and then adjust something and the keyframe would be created for us. Or we can do not have it selected, adjust everything the way we want, and then just create the keyframe ourselves. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move the head a little bit to the back. So rotate this one. Maybe body the same way. So something like this. And then move arms a little bit up. So, or maybe down. So if the body goes up, the arms go down. So we have a little bit of contrast over here going on. Something like that. And let me check if I can maybe try to, no, this will not work, so this will be fine. So let me select everything again, press I, and then location, rotation, scale. And now you see we have this subtle movement. So yeah, this would be good. So now if we want to have the same frame as the first one, we can just copy it. So have selected everything, copy it, go to the 20th frame and paste it. And now you see we have this circular movement. So now if I start it, you see it's going just once and we would like it to loop nicely. So what I do, I select all the keyframes, press Shift E, and over here I can select the make cyclic. So if I do that, now you see it's going basically in a loop all the time. So this is great, this is very useful. Now what I need to do, I see that this is going a little bit too fast for me. So what I'm going to do, you basically can scale it over here. It's just literally you have to select a point within which, like a pivot point. So you see, for example, if I select this one, so if I'm on frame 20 and start scaling, everything will go back. So I want to be on the frame 0 and then scale it forward, maybe to something like that. Yeah, this looks pretty nice. So I think we have pretty nice idle animation, but I see the hands are moving too little. So I'm going to go back to this one and maybe move it a little bit more. So over here, maybe even move the pole over here a little bit. So there's a little bit of rotation. And now let's add this keyframes once again. So A, I, location, rotation, and scale. And yes, now we have some extra movement. Nice, I like it. So this is our simple idle animation. So now let's create another one, attack animation. So before we create a new animation, it's good to click on this fake user button. Basically, this will prevent this animation from being deleted. If we remove it from here somewhere or something, it's going to be staying. I'm clicking on this button over here and going to Blender file, and you see I have it in actions. So you can always find it here, and it should be unchanged if you, for example, click this X over here. So now let's create a new action. So what we can do, we can simply click over here. We have idle 001. And now we can basically rename it to attack. So we have the animation, you see it stayed with those keyframes. So now I need to select all of those keyframes by pressing A and delete. And you see this automatically like left from the animation. So I have to go back to the attack animation. Let's do jumping slashing attack. So what we'll want to make sure that our character is a little bit lower on its legs. So for that, we could move those ones to make sure that the legs are bent slightly. So maybe something like that. Then we want to make sure the character is bent forward a little bit. So let's do that. That's like a readiness for jump. Maybe head a little bit forward. You never want to lose sight of your opponent. And that will be good starting position. Okay, so let's select all the keyframes. I, location, rotation, scale. Awesome. Now we want to move forward a little bit. And now we want to make the character jump. As I said previously, the bone, the root bone is what controls the whole character, so that's what we want to raise up. So let's do that over here. Now let's bend the character to the back. And now also raise the arms. So for that we'll need, or maybe let's do it just one-handed attack. So we uncheck the mirroring, and now I'm going to move the hand over here. Even maybe a little bit more to the back, so something like that. How does it look here? Yeah, it could be slightly better, so maybe let's move it a little over here. Then rotate the arm by using the pole a little bit. And maybe move the target a little bit even over here. Nope, the previous one was better. So something like that will do, maybe even higher. Or maybe can we do... I would love to have it over here maybe. And this going even more to the back, so over here. This will be very short frame, so we don't have to worry about it looking weird in this pose. So let's select everything and once again create a keyframe. And now when the character goes down, so once again over here, this would be a little bit quicker, so we want the character to move up slowly and then quickly smash it down. So we give it less frames for going down than for going up. I'm selecting the bone, the root bone, again going down. The character landed, so the legs bent. I want to bend the character forward. Maybe this time the head can go down too. And now the arm will get forward. Let's fix the pole. Well, I don't see what is happening there, so maybe let's do that just to see where we're going. Okay, now the pole can go over here. Or maybe even to the side. Right, so we would like the pole to be here. Awesome. And then the arm in the front at the bottom. Something like that will do, I think. Let's select everything. Location, rotation and scale. And we have, let's check. Okay, so we see that the animation down, so the jump is alright, but the arm is not going the proper way. We need extra keyframes for the arm over here to be in the front. We don't want the movement to be like a stab, but rather we want it to be a swing. So for that we need extra keyframe for the arm over here. So we start with the pole over here, move it over here, that will do. And then we look for the target bone. That's fingers. Where do we have the target bone? That's the target bone, yes. So we can rise it up, maybe a little bit here. This could go here. And if we select the pole and the target, we can select eye, location, rotation and scale, and this should do it. So here we have the slashing. Yay! So let's zoom here and see how it looks like. Up and slash. Awesome. But now we would like the character to recover to regular standing position. So down and maybe even going back to the first keyframe. So something like that. Then very quickly recovering. We don't want to copy all, we want to copy only the first one. Over here. And let's see how it looks like. Oh, okay, and this is very important. So you see, I had selected only those two bones, so I copied only them. I need to select everything, and then I need to copy and paste. And now the whole body will move as expected. A little bit too fast, so I think all of this stuff is happening a little bit too fast. So let's spread it a little bit. Okay, and now standing to the regular standing position. So for that, what we can do, we can change for a second to the idle, select all the bones, copy the first frame, go back to our attack animation, and then finish it with this. And now we have our attack animation. It's not the most beautiful, but it will do. Maybe the head is going down a little bit too much, so I'm going back here, going to the head bone and fixing that. Eye, location, rotation and scale. A little bit better. I think when the character is going down, it could go down a little bit more. So let's go here. And again, let's move this bone much lower. Over here, and then the head could be slightly more. Eye, location, rotation, and scale. This is a little bit too quick. We want, so when the character jumps, it's all right, then it lands, and it would be good if the character would stay in this position for a short amount of time. So I'm again selecting all the bones, copying this, pasting over here, and this will be much better. Now I think everything looks too uniform when the character stays in place. So let's for that move the arm a little bit down, maybe in this frame. So a little bit down, and maybe head also just even more a little bit down. Eye, location and scale and everything. And we have simple attack animation. So now in order to export those, it's pretty simple. So what we do, we save the project. Once again, don't forget to check fake user. We go to the object mode, we select the character, bones, file, export, FBX, and now we select selected objects only, armature and mesh, apply scaling FBX uniform scale, FBX unit scale, apply transform and export. Okay, so now I just drag and drop the model into the scene, and I see over here on the right you will see that I have the armature attack and armature idle. If I just make this one a little bit bigger, maybe rotate it. Let's have a look. We can play the animation, so we see our attack animation. You see in Unity it looks much better than it did in Blender. And then the idle animation, the same thing, we can start it and we see our animation is having its beautiful idle animation. So from now, from this point, probably the only thing left is literally just select the loop time and loop pause for the breathing. That will make sure that it behaves properly in the animator or in game. Then we apply it, and now literally we can drag and drop the, that's the game window again. So in the scene window, we can just drag and drop the character over here, rotate it towards the, what we need to do is just to create the animation controller. Let's call it elf, and now let's assign it to the parent object. So to the, let's call it elf, for example. And now in the animator, we can add the animation. So let's drag and drop the idle animation, for example. So this is idle, this will become now default. And if we start the game, our character is animated as we expected. And now, very important thing, if you have the animations from Mixamo, like we've done in the previous tutorial, we were putting the animator on the armature. You see, I'm attaching the animator to the parent object, not to the armature. So this concludes the small series of videos about creating and animating your own characters. I hope you enjoyed this series. Love you, have a fantastic day. Bye bye.